All right, we're going to start talking about simulation now. Now, the website we're going to be using to do our simulation is circuitverse.org. So when you put this into the browser, you'll get this item, and we're going to do simulator in the little upper toolbar. Now, we've been doing a lot of stuff with circuits. We talked about Boolean algebra, we talked about K-maps, we've done gates, and all of that has been work that we have done on paper. And now that we have our designs on paper, we got to kind of make them work. Now, there's at the final end result, a lot of times in today, the circuit gets turned into an IC, an integrated circuit, or you can kind of think of it as just a computer chip. So if you open up any type of product, you see a lot of small little black rectangles, squares. They usually have like some type of ceramic coating on it. Those are the integrated circuits. Now, before we get to an integrated circuit, there's a lot of work the designer can do ahead of time. Some of it is we use physical parts and we use them on a breadboard. And other times we use a simulator to see if our logic is going to work out. So we're going to talk about our simulator today. So circuitverse is pretty easy to get used to. It doesn't have all the features an advanced simulator would have, but it has enough for us in our first course to get an idea. So the items that we're going to be looking at are the first three. The input, if you look on the left side, the little cursor. So we have input, output, and our gates. All right, so let's talk about our input. Let's just do a NOT gate so we can see how a NOT gate works. The input we're going to be using is this first one called input. So you're going to click it and then click it onto the grid here. And if you keep clicking this little box, once it's in the grid, it's highlighted in yellow. You see that it switches from a 0 to 1. So that's going to be the input that we're going to be supplying. You kind of think of this as like a little switch or a button that's going to be controlling your circuit. Then we're going to go to output. So we need something that we can show as an output. You have a couple of different options. One is you can use this output that's an X. And whatever we connect something to, it'll show up as being a 1 or a 0. And other items that we use is I like to use these little LEDs. It just gives you an idea that a 0 means the light is off and a 1 would be that the light is on. All right, so let's do a NOT gate. So we look down here, we get our NOT gate. Let's drag it out. And let me zoom in a little bit so we can make it a little bit easier to see. So we're going to connect this NOT gate together. All right, so you're going to be collecting the green circles to the green circles. So we'll click and drag over. So we have an input coming in. And then let's connect this to that red box. We'll drag over. And it's now connected to the red box. Now you see that it becomes a 0. So we had a 1 as an input. It goes to the NOT gate. We get a 0. And let's just click the input. And we see a 0 to a 1. The other thing we could do is, like I said, a lot of times I like to use the LEDs. So we'll click on the dot. And then we'll connect it to the line coming out. And we click. And then you see that the light turns on. You could use either one. You might want to use a mixture of both. The other thing we can do is if you go down to miscellaneous, you'll see these little flags that pop up. And we can drag these flags over. And we're going to connect the input. Let's connect it to like this input. And I think we can change the name of this. Maybe we cannot. Okay, so we have flag 1. And then let's draw another flag out. So that's F2. We drag. Now, if you drag and you stop, that's fine. You can always reconnect. When you have items that connect, you'll see little circles. So if you look here, there's a circle where the LED is. Now, if we look at the bottom piece, will be our timing diagram. And we're going to talk more about timing diagrams in another video. But here, if you look down, you see that we have the F1 is showing a 1. And we click it. And then you'll see that the F2 goes high, the F1 goes low. If you have like a bigger monitor than I do, it's probably a lot easier to see. So you can use flags as a way to help you visualize what's occurring. Okay, so now let's talk about more than just a NOT gate. So let's grab in a second input, and then let's do an AND gate, for example. So let's draw out this AND gate. Now, when we talk about an AND gate, one item that we haven't been doing is talking a little bit about property structures or properties. And this AND gate, you would see that it has two inputs and it has one output. The number of inputs, this is what is called fan-in. And fan-in is all circuits have some type of fan-in of how many inputs it's going to have. So here we're going to connect this input, and let's go ahead and connect the output of the NOT gate. So I'm going to start with this input, draw a line, so that way I have a connection that can be made. Try not to cross across a gate because that can make it a little bit difficult. Okay, so we have that item. Well, let's just grab an LED to connect to the output of it. Okay, so then let's connect these two items together. All right, so we see that I have a 1 and a 1, and that should be a 1. So as I was saying, we have fan-in, the number of inputs. So let's say we wanted a 3-input AND gate. How could we do a 3-input AND gate? Well, if all of our fan-in is just 2, well, then I would have another AND gate come in. And then I'm going to use, let's say here, I think let's do some text. I think we can write out text. I can explain inputs. We go down to miscellaneous. I think there should be a text box. So let's draw out this text box. Let's call this input A. Let's call this input B. And then let's do another input and let's call it C. Okay, so we want these three gates all ended together. So we want A bar, B, and a C. So what I can do is this AND gate up here is really getting A bar B. Well, I can use that as one of the inputs, and then I could take C and connect it in. And that should give us our three input AND gate. And a lot of times when we're designing a circuit, we have to kind of see what chips are available, what is going to be the fan-in options. So we can see that there we could get the ones to pop out. Now in simulation, in real life, when you're building a real circuit, you're going to have items. You're really going to have to deal with the fan-in because circuits are only built at a certain input number. Usually, the more input, the slower the gate's going to be, the bigger it's going to be, the more resources it's going to take. So a lot of times there are restriction on fan-in. But let's just say we're in simulation, we can allow our fan-in to be whatever size we want. If we scroll down, we're going to see properties down here. And on the properties, you'll see input size. So we can change the input size. And let's say the input size here is 3. And then when we come back to this AND gate and we draw it out, we should see that now it has, oh, I probably didn't save it. Let's go down, properties, 3. You should be able to change, oh, once it's on the grid, that's when you can change the properties. So you got to draw it out first and then change the properties. And then you'll get the 3 inputs. All right, so then that's how you can build your circuits through the simulator.